Hey everyone, this is Mason, and you're listening to HerbRally. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey, no matter what stage you're at. We have over 779 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is another edition of the Herbalist Hour. This time I'm joined by six herbalists, and these are all herbalists, amazing herbalists, that will be presenting at this year's Great Lakes Herb Faire. So the Great Lakes Herb Faire takes place on September 6th to the 8th, 2024 in beautiful Chelsea, Michigan. But in today's episode, I chat with Margi Flint, Courtney Cochran, Docta Yew, Shana Weddington, Jim McDonald, and Rosalee de la Forêt. So in each 10-minute or so interview, we get to know the herbalist a little bit more. We ask them about the event, whether they've been there or not, and just some other for funsies, random herbal questions. So I had a great time chatting with all of these different herbalists. I know you're going to enjoy it as well. But a little bit more about the event. If you'd like to learn more and register, first of all, you could go to Great Lakes Herb Faire, and that's fair with an E. .org, greatlakesherbfaire.org to learn more and register. It's held in Chelsea, Michigan, as I mentioned, from September 6th to the 8th, 2024. Just something that I wanted to point out, I was because there's six herbalists in this interview, in this roundtable discussion today, and I was curious how many presenters are actually teaching at this year's Great Lakes Herb Faire. They have 48 teachers. That's pretty incredible. So just an amazing opportunity to learn. We'll be attending. Amanda and I will be there representing HerbRally once again. We had a table there last year, so come say hi to us if you're able to make it. Also, I forgot to mention this. As I was scrolling through the teachers, the 48 different teachers, I was delighted to see that Keith Hess is presenting there this year. Keith was actually the first plant walk that I ever went on in Eugene, Oregon. So that's really rad to see that he's a Midwesterner now, and he'll be presenting at the Great Lakes Herb Faire. So a couple other things to note. I do want to point out the incredible food that this conference has. Every time I go there, I'm just always blown away by the food. We get into that a little bit in these interviews, but just wanted to point that out ahead of time. Also, the land is adjacent to miles and miles of trails. They've got a great kids program. There's options for the meal plan. And the food, as I was talking about, is also as local and as organic as it gets. So also a great tea bar and lots of coffee as well. So, and also before we get into the show, I'd love to thank our HerbRally Schoolhouse members. Thank you so much for your support. We really could not do this without you all. If you'd like to learn more about what the HerbRally Schoolhouse is, basically it's our membership area. It costs $10 a month. And inside the membership area, I want to say we have over 60 classes in there with around 30 teachers. There's also cool herbal community discounts to different various herbal companies. There's also a private Facebook group, but you get the idea. It's a membership area, $10 a month. And if you'd like to try your first 30 days for free, you could go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And don't forget to use coupon code podcast at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. One more time, that's herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And really, from the bottom of my heart, we really appreciate the support from all of our Schoolhouse members. So thank you. That's going to do it for me today. I really encourage you to look into the Great Lakes Herb Faire, whether you're in the region or not. It's definitely one of the best, one of my favorite herbalism events around. That's Great Lakes Herb Faire, fair with an E, greatlakesherbfaire.org. Without further ado, let's get into these interviews, and we'll talk to you very soon. All right, bye.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Awesome. Well, now we're going to welcome Margi Flint to the Great Lakes Herb Faire Roundtable. Welcome to the show, Margi.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Of course, me too. We couldn't do this without you. As you were saying pre-call before we got on, you like to try to make it to this event every single year. Why would you say that is?
Oh, why would I say that? Well, when I finally got to it, what I realized is this conference is the vibration of all the conferences of my youth, where everyone got together, was nice to each other, and talked about herbs.
Go figure. As it should be. What are some of the conferences that you used to attend back in the day?
Oh, well, Green Nations Gathering, that
Mm,
was a wonderful conference. Pam Montgomery put that on. The original women's herbal way back to when Gail Ulrich began it in Little Shelburne Falls, we would wash dishes and Tupperware, things with cold water. It's amazing we all survived. Um, and back in the day, you used to be able to run around naked at all the conferences, which was a lot of fun and a lot more attractive back then. Uh, let's see. So Green Nations, the original women's, and all the other women's herbals. There was one called Gaia
Mm,
Herb Symposium, but they moved down south, and I haven't been invited back to that since then. But Gaia was fun. The original international herb symposiums,
mm.
they were all little,
Yeah,
just like in a field at a
sure.
4-H camp.
Well, I'm thankful because I'm a lifelong Oregonian, and I actually was one of the organizers of the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference, which is always the same weekend as the Great Lakes Herb Fair. But now I'm a Midwesterner, so I kind of consider this my local event. And I'm pretty sure, even though it hasn't been going on the past couple of years, that's still an event, an herbal event where you could run around naked and have it be accepted. So I don't know if you've
I
ever been to that one.
I have never been to Brighton Bush.
It's a good one. It's
Sounds
beautiful.
like fun.
Sure, yeah, exactly. Could roam naked all around. But why don't we get to
Yeah.
know Margi? I know a lot of people already know who Margi is, but why don't you kind of give a brief overview of who you are and what you teach in the realm of herbalism?
Okay. Um, I would say my teaching specialty is teaching the knowledge of William Lasassier.
Hmm,
So face, tongue, and nail diagnosis. So, you look at somebody, it's an open book, you know exactly what's going on inside them, but can't say anything.
sure, right.
But that has been really the most potent teaching, because what I want to train practitioners to be better practitioners.
Hmm,
And if you can see the indications for which organ system's out of balance, you're way ahead.
for sure.
It's just magic. And William was brilliant.
Yeah, I never had a chance to meet William. Yeah, when we hang out at the Great Lakes Herb Fair, I'm gonna have you look at my nails. I think they're pretty
Oh,
solid.
oh,
But
good. I'll let you know.
just okay, so just for my own, like I love herbalism history. I love this community. I'm just kind of curious, did you study with William Lasassier with David Winston as well? I've heard him mention him quite a bit.
Yeah, David studied with William, and I studied with William. Rosemary studied with
Oh well,
William. Most people who were alive
yeah.
during his lifetime studied with him. He was a very eccentric man,
Mm.
and a tad wild, as herbalists tend to be. Um, but he taught the triune system, the triangular system that David has just brought to the forefront better actually than anyone I know. He really, and he put his own spin on it as well. But that system of herbology is truly American herbology. I mean,
Mm.
William invented that.
Wow.
And it's so important for history. I don't know if you know, I'm publishing his books.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I saw you post something about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
You're taking some of the old like handwritten writings and transcribing
Oh
them
my
to
God.
text.
There are hundreds of pages that
Wow.
I'm trying to synthesize. And I have lots of volunteers.
That's
Please
cool.
come and help me. Uh, who, who are typing, and it's a massive undertaking. It's a good thing I retired.
Now you can do this kind of work. Do you have your own like publishing company?
I self-published my
Oh,
book,
gotcha.
The Practicing Herbalist. It's in the 4th edition now, and
Cool.
I'm pretty good at it. And if you want to make money, self-publishing is the way to do it.
Yeah,
And
we're actually working on a little HerbRally project, a little side book that we're doing, and we're going to self-publish as well.
excellent. If you
Yeah.
want any help, let me know.
I will definitely reach out for that. But and when we have you on the Herbalist Hour, we'll really get to delve deep into your book. I think I heard it's in its fourth publishing, or
Yeah,
it's going to be. So yeah,
it's in the fourth. Yep.
awesome. Well, are you teaching at this year's Great Lakes Herb Fair? And if so,
I
what
am.
classes? Yeah.
I am. I'm trying to hone more into one organ system. So I'm going to teach two classes, one
Okay.
on the stomach and indications relating to the stomach. And then the second class will be on lack of intrinsic factor, which is all about your stomach as well.
Mm,
So it's, in an ideal world, you would come to both classes because they'll feed each other into really having a well-rounded concept of what we need to do to be better
for sure.
genetically for future generations, for all of you who want to reproduce.
Well, I didn't really go to any classes last year, but that sounds really fascinating. I'm gonna have to try to make it to one of your classes this year.
Well, that
Um,
would be lovely.
you're in the Boston area, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you love about traveling to the Midwest?
Oh God, Midwestern, it's such a cliche, but the people in Midwest are so nice,
Yeah.
and I get to hang out with Jim McDonald. I'm prejudiced. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
He's a
And
pretty cool guy.
oh my God. And he's so funny.
Mm,
And they took me out on a canoe. I'd never been in a canoe before. And I loved it. I mean,
That's awesome.
what are friends for? I mean,
That's right.
introduce me to something that gives me total joy at this time in life. Fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, what do you love most about being an herbalist?
Hmm. I find it very gratifying to believe in nature
Hmm,
and to watch it do magic on people. People come to you, they think it's you. It isn't me. It's the herbs. And it's reconnecting with that thought that I am a being amongst all other living beings. You know, nature is so beautiful. And the more people tap into that, the healthier they get.
And just before we got on this call, you were out in the garden, even though it was freezing outside. Are you gonna
I
head
was,
back out there, work with
I was
nature
like,
again?
oh my God, I have to get away from the computer. I'm just going to go outside and, cinch up my hops arbor and, you know, do some manual labor. You have to get out and get dirty or life isn't fun.
That's right. Yeah, Amanda was just out there the other day working in the garden. It was a beautiful day here in Wisconsin, and I want to say like a week later it was just tons of snow all over again. But like you said, it's so beneficial to be out there working in the garden, working with nature, and it really creates a vibrant and healthy life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We're gonna have
Yeah.
to, like I said, we're gonna have to have you on the Herbalist Hour, really dive deep into Margie's story. But any last words you'd like to say before we get out of here?
Have fun. Enjoy life. Be
Amen.
in nature. See you
Awesome.
soon.
See you soon. Thanks, Margie.
You're welcome.
Well, awesome. Welcome to the Great Lakes Herb Fair Roundtable, Courtney.
Great. Thanks, Mason. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so this is Courtney Cochran, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about you and your work. What do you do as an herbalist?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mason.
Of course.
So again, I'm Courtney Cochran. I use they, them pronouns. And I'm a queer and non-binary herbalist that's based on occupied Anishinaabe and Lakota land in so-called Knife River, Minnesota. And I do many things in herbalism, but I'll just kind of talk about a few of the things that are really blooming right now and feel the most important. Um, One piece is that I grow my own herbs. We have a very small scale herb farm here on the 16 acres of boreal forest land that we live on. And with that, we have like a small product line that we sell both locally and some pieces online. Um, and then kind of my two really big passions in herbalism. One is like flower essence work and working with plant spirits. And so do a lot as a plant meditation guide and a plant spirit communicator and spend a lot of my time like researching and testing essences and writing about those and trying to expand the, like, especially the range of bioregional essences in Great Lakes region essences that folks have access to. And then my other hat that I could talk so much about and is really like one of the big reasons that I got into the more clinical side of herbalism is like, what role do herbs have in trans healthcare and in trans wellness? I found a really kind of deep lack of that in my own herbal studies and herbal mentorship, and I've really spent a lot of my time diving into that and specifically creating both flower essence services and clinical services for transgender, gender nonconforming, non-binary, and two-spirit folks who are really turning to plants as a piece of their own journey and wanting that support from plants. So that's a huge piece of my work, is support for trans folks, especially like support around gender affirming care and gender affirming surgeries. Yeah, just a lot of different pieces there.
Beautiful. And yeah, that's one of the things I love about herbalism is you get to learn from your teachers, you get to see what's not being fulfilled. And then since you're so passionate about it, you're going to be one of the people spearheading this work that you're doing. Just out of my own curiosity, because we're just getting to know each other, who have been some of your herbal mentors?
Yeah, so my biggest herbal mentor will actually be at Great Lakes Herb Faire as well. Gigi Staffney. She's based in Chautauqua, Wisconsin, and runs the Green Wisdom School out of Chautauqua, and studied with Gigi for years and found her really supportive. And she's like really helped push me into some of the clinical research around like trans folks accessing herbalism for their own wellness, and been there to kind of gut check some of the things that there aren't studies on with me as well. And then I studied with Lupo Passero at Twin Star Herbal Center for my flower essence work, and have taken Tammy Sweet's Anatomy and Physiology course online as well. So I think those are the folks who like are the really big pillars in my work. But then also want to just like give a shout out to some of the like up and coming trans herbalists who have really like put that work out there and been creating some of the early clinical research. Emiliano Lemus and Violet Moon, who are in the Bay Area of California, are really like prolific and skilled clinical herbalists that I've been able to study with. Ember Peters in Canada, and then Iolette, who is really runs the Flower Top Clinic and is a really brilliant trans femme herbalist out of New York.
Nice. Well, you mentioned some names I did know and some I didn't know, so it's going to be great to learn more about them and their work. So
all brilliant people.
I love it. So Gigi's based in Wisconsin. That's great to know. Now that I live in Wisconsin, I'll have to get to know her a little bit more. But awesome. Well, what are some of the classes you're going to be teaching at the Great Lakes Herb Faire?
Yeah, so I'll be teaching one class, and the class is called Queer Vibrations, Flower Essences, Plant Spirit, and Their Affinity for LGBTQIA and 2S plus Wellness and Liberation. So a really long class title, but really focused on like what is the role of plant energetics in queer and trans liberation? Like, how are we actually using those soul healing remedies to like actually free our bodies and our souls from the impact of homophobia and transphobia? Amen. And actually find like peace, happiness, euphoria, joy in our liberated selves. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I could tell. And it's one of the things I really appreciate about the organizers of the Great Lakes Herb Fairs. They're very intentional about bringing diverse content and specialties. So thank you for bringing that to the Great Lakes Herb Faire. Have you ever been before?
I have not. It's going to be my first time. I'm really excited. I've lived like within blocks of the shores of Lake Superior for 15 years, and I'm just really excited to like actually meet some of the folks who are creating the research in our bioregion, right? Like it's such a specific bioregion living along the Great Lakes. And I'm really excited to be able to be in community with other folks who are like at the center of some of this work and launching this.
It's a great event. This will be my 3rd year going. I'll get to
Amazing.
kick it with Courtney. That'll be awesome. Well, from what you know about the Great Lakes Herb Fair, what are you most excited for?
Yeah, I think one piece you kind of already mentioned, Mason, is like I often find that like herbalism spaces are really centered on like femme identity. And as a non-binary person, those spaces aren't always a place that like I want to bring my very like, right, my very queer, very trans herb content to, and not sure how I'll be received in those spaces. And I just think the way Great Lakes Herb Fair is packaged and launched and all of the pieces of it, like I think it's going to be a really welcoming and diverse space. And I'm excited to see an herb space not centered on one specific like binary gender identity as well.
Amen to that. No,
Yeah.
you'll feel very welcome there. And the Midwest is just a very accepting, lovely place in general. I found, I'm coming from the Pacific Northwest, but I've
Oh, yeah.
totally fallen in love with Appleton and just Michigan and all those places. So,
Yeah. Born and raised Midwest. So,
oh, you know the drill then.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, why don't we kind of wrap it up with a couple of funsies questions? What do you love most about being an herbalist?
I love that question. I
I
think
thought of it
one,
myself.
good. I'm so glad you didn't take it from someone else. Yeah, I think one of the things that I love the most about being an herbalist is like endless learning. Like I'm so excited to meet all of the other teachers. I'm going to want to go to every single session I can cram in. Like I just think there's so much to learn. And so much we don't know about plants and about nature. And I've always just been so hungry to learn all of that. And feel like the more I learn about plants, the more connected I feel to where I live, and the more connected I feel to nature. Um, I also feel like one piece that was super unexpected for me is like learning more about my own self and my own identity through connection with plants. Both as like a queer non-binary person, I feel like I actually like had conversations with plants that taught me things about myself, but also about my own ancestry. Like growing plants here and like meeting plants on my land that also are like sacred plants in my Celtic ancestry, and being able to connect to things I never probably would have dug into without like the plants guiding me towards that.
Yeah, I was just on a Skyhouse Herbs YouTube channel. That's Ashley Ellenboss. She's also based in Minnesota. And she asked me what I found was a current trend in the herbal community. And my answer just popped in my head. And I was like, oh, people are getting more and more interested in ancestry. And
Yeah,
I absolutely vibe with that. Absolutely.
yeah.
So. Well, it's been great getting to know you, Courtney. And I want to say the other day you submitted a couple of events to the HerbRally events
Yeah,
page. So that
thank you
was,
so much for posting those.
of course, yeah, always feel free to send them my way whenever you have something coming up. So it's been nice to get to know you via Zoom. Where can folks learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, so if folks want to connect with me in any way, my business name is Alseth Acres, Alseth, Acres, and we're on Facebook and Instagram, and we have a website as well. Would love to connect with folks and have some cool offerings coming up, both centered on like transclinical herbalism as well as some different like plant meditation and plant spirit work too. So would love for folks to reach out on any of those platforms or come find me at the Great Lakes Herb Fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Courtney, for coming on the Great Lakes Herb Fair Roundtable. And we'll see you soon. All right.
All right. Thanks so much, Mason.
Well, welcome to the Great Lakes Herb Fair Roundtable.
Thank you.
Well, I don't think we've ever met, so this is going to be really exciting to get to know you a little bit more. Who are you and what do you do in the realm of herbalism?
Okay, well, my name is Yuma Bellamy. I go by Docta Yew as a nickname, and I am a holistic wellness consultant. And so I've been working in that regard for maybe the past 16, 17 years. I live in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
I'm originally from New York, Mount Vernon, Bronx area of New York. And it's been a very interesting journey,
to say the least.
to say the least, absolutely. But wouldn't be anywhere else. So really happy to have the opportunity to participate in the Great Lakes Herb Faire again. I got a chance to participate 2 years ago, missed last year, and glad to be invited back this year.
How did you originally get linked up with the folks at the Great Lakes Herb Faire?
Anna reached out to me. She had heard about me, and I don't remember how she heard about me. But because I feel like I'm a little under the radar. But she reached out and she said that she heard that I do good work, teach good workshops, and she asked if I could be part of the Great Lakes Herb Faire. And so I thought, hey, it sounds like a good opportunity. I haven't done anything in Michigan before, so really happy to have the opportunity to travel there, and had a really good time there. The people were wonderful, and the workshops that I attended were very good as well. So glad to be part of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet you. This will be my second year in a row going. That'll be my third time. I've actually been to an event in your neck of the woods, the Chesapeake Herb Gathering, which was absolutely beautiful event, and it was really nice to get to know the DC area herbal community. But I think you're really gonna, well, you've been here, so you already know you're gonna love it. So what classes are you gonna be teaching at the Great Lakes Herb Faire?
The name of my class is Just Breathe: Considerations and Herbs for Respiratory Health. So I think it's somewhat self-explanatory, but generally speaking, talking about things that we can do from a holistic standpoint to promote better respiratory health, better breathing, and different adverse conditions that are associated with the breathing passages, talking about what causes that, talking about how we can use lifestyle habits and daily practices to better ourselves in that regard, and also how we can utilize herbs and how herbs have traditionally been used to better ourselves in that regard. So that's the premise of the workshop in a nutshell. And it's kind of going to be an intensive, like a part 1 and a part 2.
So maybe it'll be like a 3-hour class or so.
Yes.
Nice. Any like low-hanging fruit or quick tips or tricks you could give the audience to help improve their breathing?
Well, probably one of the major things is understanding that we don't breathe from the chest naturally, that we are breathing from the diaphragm naturally. And a lot of times when you tell people to take a deep breath, they go, and you see the chest puff up like this. And it's kind of like we've been conditioned to breathe that way, but that's a very inefficient way of breathing. And, true breathing usually comes from the diaphragm area, which I don't know if you can see where I'm demonstrating, but a little bit below there, right? And so it's a good practice to even place your hand by your diaphragm and work on taking deep breaths from there, and just the diaphragm moving, not the chest area. Sometimes for certain people that might be easy, and for some people that might be more challenging because they're not used to that. So that's one of the major things. Of course, like getting into herbs, that's a whole segment in itself. And also talking about foods and how foods are a big contributing factor to respiratory illnesses. And even if other factors may be like the direct causes, how foods can either help or hurt.
Interesting. So yeah, I have to imagine the intensive will have the herbal component, but then I suspect y'all will be doing some exercises as well.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, you got to check out Dr. Yew's class at the Great Lakes Herb Fair. So you've been before. What is one of the things that you love the most about the event?
I love the space that it's held in. Beautiful
Oh, beautiful.
space.
Right
Beautiful
there on the lake.
space. Yes, I really enjoy just even walking around the area.
Yeah.
And like I said, the people always are the drawing point or the turn-away point for me, and the energy of the people there, like everybody was very well welcoming and
Yeah.
just open. I love the openness and the openness of the dialogue. At the time when we went, I think there was an effort to improve the diversity
Hmm.
of who was coming out to attend. So as African American / indigenous or what have you, it wasn't too many of us there.
Mm.
But I appreciate the effort to expand in that regard, because to me that's very important also, because we can all learn from each other, to have the opportunity to meet such excellent herbalists like Jim McDonald, and there's another two people who really stand out in my mind, and their names are escaping me at the moment, because I haven't seen them or heard from them since, unfortunately, but beautiful presentations they had, and one of my good brothers, Geo Edwards, was there at the time. He has a place, Grain and Pestle in Detroit, so it was good to get to reconnect with him as well. So yeah, just all my interactions with the people, the different vendors, they had some wonderful herbal products that, even though I make stuff myself, sometimes I see a good herbal tincture, I gotta get it, have
Oh
it
yeah.
in the toolbox.
Oh yeah. You got to support the other herbalists as well. And couldn't agree with more everything you said. Are you going to be bringing some of your own herbal products as well?
Yes, that's the plan.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to checking them out.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's kind of wrap up with a couple funsies questions. What do you love most about being an herbalist?
Love helping people, and I love just the potential that herbs have. Some things that are tapped into, and some things I feel are not tapped into yet, but just that whole process of discovery, is a beautiful thing, and just being connected.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great to get to know you, Docta Yew. Where can
Thank
folks
you.
learn? Absolutely. Where can folks learn more about you and your work? Like you said, you
Um,
might be a little underground, but do you have a website and all that? TikTok?
yeah, I have a website. Don't have a TikTok,
Okay.
but on social media, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook more regularly at Docta Yew, spelled DOCTAYEW. Facebook.com/Docta Yew as well. And my website is YEW360.com. Name of my health business, U360 Holistic Health and Wellness.
Awesome. Well, I don't think we're following you on Instagram yet, so I'll make sure we do that right after this call. So really appreciate you coming on the Great Lakes Herb Fair Roundtable, Dr. Yew.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon, all right?
All right, enjoy your day, Mason.
All right, you as well. Awesome. Well, welcome Shana Weddington to the Great Lakes Herb Fair Roundtable.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Let's get to know you a little bit more. Who are you and what do you do in the realm of herbalism?
Yeah, so you introduced me perfectly, said my name correctly. Kudos and
Oh,
points to
awesome.
you. Yeah, my name is Shana Weddington. I am based in Chelsea, Michigan,
Nice.
which for folks who don't know is a small little kind of rural community about 45 minutes west of Detroit, 20 minutes west of Ann Arbor. And in the realm of herbalism, I do a couple of different things. So I own my own practice called Giving Root Wellness, which is an education-based practice. I also manage Thomas Easley's practice at the Eclectic School of Herbal Medicine. So he and I on Fridays and occasional other days, we'll sit down together and see clients together. And we do a clinical herbalism and practice series together, so people can sign up if they're budding herbalists or just curious about what the world of clinical herbalism looks like. We live stream a consult, and then you get access to the classroom to be able to see kind of and come along with us for the follow-ups, see what care plans are put together, what soap notes look like, that kind of thing. I also manage a little year-round farmers market called Agricole Farm Stop, located downtown. And we focus on all locally grown, locally made, locally prepared. And so I utilize my role as an herbalist and my passion as an herbalist to help launch other herbalists and their product lines and help them, you know, have a little bit of more of an outlet than just sitting at a farmer's market.
So you probably win the award for the closest drive to the Great Lakes Herb Faire then.
I do. Yeah, and in terms of the Great Lakes Herb Faire, I have been the food coordinator for quite a long time.
Oh.
I wasn't the food coordinator for the first year. I volunteered the first year, and I was the person that stuck around the longest after the fair ended to help clean up. And then when they needed somebody, they called me. So that would have been 2016, I believe, is when I started food coordinating. And with my passion and background in local food economy, I have utilized that to get as much local food to the fair as possible. So we obviously went online for a couple of years there, but when we did return in person in 2022, we had, I would say, it was about 95% of our budget went to local food.
Wow.
And hyper local. Like we had farmers down the way, we had meat raised in the backyard and things like that, like in terms of relative location to the backyard of where Herb Faire happens. So
Nice.
Yeah, so it's been, and last year we had a great year in terms of food. We had an excellent chef and an excellent team, and we were able again to, you know, leverage Agricole Farm Stop as well as all of my connections with local farmers and local food producers to get as much locally raised and locally produced food as we could there.
Now, the chef you're referring to, that's Lindsay Feldposh's husband, right?
Sure is, Brian. Yes.
Brian, shout out Brian. And I just got to say, I'm glad we're talking about the food here. Definitely one of the best menus at herb conferences I've been to. And I've been to a lot of herbalism events, and it's always such high quality. I remember the first year I was there, I want to say y'all served Tom Kha Gai, which was like such a treat. It's one of my favorite soups. And I just couldn't believe that I was getting to have that at an herb conference.
Yeah. Yeah. I think combined with high quality food, and then Brian just brings something really special and really fun flavors and really unique foods. Nothing that we do at the Great Lakes Herb Faire to me feels like a typical conference or conference food. It feels like something really special and like home cooked, and lots of good accoutrement, if you will, which is all the sides and hot sauces and ferments and things like that. So yeah,
plenty
really
of coffee and tea too.
Yes. Yep. And we keep that coffee and tea rolling, as much as we possibly can, keep the people warm and happy.
I do remember using some of the fermented hot sauce on like my eggs and whatnot. Where's the fermented hot sauce coming from?
The Brinery. So that's a local,
Wow.
Yep. Local guy, David. Oh, his last name is evading me at the moment, but he actually donated all of that ferment and all of that hot sauce for us last year. So shout out to the Brinery.
Awesome. Are you teaching any classes this year, or are you kind of more involved in the food side of things? Okay. What are you teaching?
Yeah, so I made my debut in teaching actually at the 2022 Herb Faire, and I taught a class on herbs for brain fog. So that was well received, and this year I'm going to be teaching on herbs for cervical health. So I like to talk about really specific items in a very short window of time. You don't get a ton of time to dive super deep at a conference, but I like to go over a little bit of an overview And I also like to talk about things that I see a lot in my clinical practice that might not be talked about very frequently, or people are just starting to kind of talk about it. And so that's what I'm researching and diving deep into this year, and we'll be presenting.
So you work at the Eclectic School of Botanical Medicine, if I'm getting that correct, with Thomas. Did you study there as well then?
I did. Yep, I graduated in 2019.
Incredible program. I've known a lot of graduates over the years, and yeah, it just really sets you up nicely for a career in herbalism. So you've been to the fair many a time now. What is your favorite part about the Great Lakes Herb Fair?
Oh, besides the food.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, let's go with besides the food.
Yeah, so besides the food, for me, it's just the vibe and the community and the people that have never been there, the people that have been there, you know, year in and year out. There's really like what feels so cozy and safe and I don't know, just really warm, good vibes when you're at the fair. The grounds are incredible. I would say that's another, like the pine trees that are there are just feel really, really special. It's a special plot of land. And then, yeah, I love all my organizers, my co-organizers, and getting to see them and then getting the feedback from people and watching other people engage with each other. And as an organizer, and especially as somebody who has been, you know, running the kitchen and doing a lot of the food, I don't make it to a lot of the classes.
Right.
So really for me, getting to connect with people at those meal times or when they're just kind of chilling out in between classes, grabbing a coffee and just getting to listen to other people's experience and hearing their feedback and really just, you know, you're riding high that whole weekend. It's like a lot of work that goes into making a big event like that happen. And then what you're receiving in gratitude, some is, you know, some strife, but like what you're receiving in gratitude for holding that space and making it all come together. And also like just watching other people really connect and get so much out of it, I think is my favorite part.
Well, yeah, you mentioned strife. I can't imagine you get too much. It's probably hopefully a lot of feedback. I haven't mentioned this in the Great Lakes Herb Fair roundtable yet, but do you know the exact size or how many people attend the event? Because I want to say it feels big enough to feel like a really, I don't know, like an epic event of sorts, if you will. But at the same time, I feel like it's also very intimate at the same time. So how many people attend, and what are your thoughts on like the size of the event?
Yeah, so because of the parking situation on the grounds, we are limited to what we're allowed to have. So our cap, I think every year is somewhere between 175 and 200. We always go over and beg forgiveness and try to
Yeah.
do the best to really like leave the place better than we found it. And so far, we have, and I think that's why, you know, they keep inviting us back and
Sure.
allowing us to come. But yeah, I would say that there are some limitations to that space in terms of growth,
Yeah.
but we love the land, we love the space. We really can't imagine it anywhere else.
So you're from Chelsea. How is the event perceived in the like just general Chelsea community?
It's a really interesting question. As
I just
somebody
thought of it.
Yeah, as somebody who actually works in the Chelsea community and is from, you know, I graduated from Chelsea as well. Um, very few people actually know about it. So
Mm.
I will tell people like, oh, have you heard of the Great Lakes Herb Fair? And they're like, no, what's that? And I'll tell people, they're like, oh, I'll go and check it out. So it is really interesting. I think the Chelsea community knows something's going on the weekend of the
Right.
fair because there's a lot more people in town, especially right there on Pierce Road. There's a lot of cars and locals that will kind of drive or meander in.
Mm.
And then we're like, sorry, it's a private event. You have to be, you know, hold a ticket for the space. And so we've considered like, what would it look like to do just day entry or things like that. But we've consistently held our ground on, you know, nope, it's all or nothing,
Yeah.
you know, commit to the full experience, the full weekend. And I think that holds the safest container for everybody. You don't have people wandering in and wandering out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how you really develop bonds with these people over the course of the weekend. So that's definitely one of the things I appreciate about is making new friends every time I go. So what do you love most about being an herbalist, Shana?
Ooh, what do I love most about being an herbalist? I really think that plants in general, uh, they don't have a voice, but they're doing so much and at all times for the good of our planet and for the good of nature and for us. I would say that I really appreciate and love when I'm able to facilitate someone finding a plant ally that really works for them, that they really resonate with, and then they get to develop that relationship, whether it's with tea or just sitting outside under a tree or through a formula that I, create for them as part of a care plan, or even just in passing in the space that I'm at, where I'm primarily working kind of retail customer service and managing and overseeing a team. Oh, have you tried this for that thing you just mentioned? Oh no, well here, why don't you try a sip of this tea that we make? And those kinds of connections and facilitating that, I think, is my favorite part.
Great answer. Well, where can folks learn more about you and your work? Do you want to send them to Eclectic School or where else?
Yeah, you can find me through Eclectic School, so eclectic school of herbal medicine.com. You can also get in touch with me through my website at givingrootwellness.com. You can also get a hold of me through agricolefarmstop.com.
Thank you, Shana. Any chance Thomas Easley will be showing up to this year's event?
It's his birthday every weekend that the fair is.
Oh,
Likely not this year, but we're hopeful that maybe in a year upcoming.
cool. Yeah, I want to say he was there last year, him and Terry. Oh, I'm misremembering. That was a few years back then.
I don't think he's actually ever made it up for our event. So
Oh, I'm just mixing events up then. Oops.
yeah, I did post up. What year was that? That would have been a 2022. I did post up with the Eclectic School of Herbal
Oh,
Medicine
nice.
table, and I brought some books and I brought some formulas. So I was there representing the school that year.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the Great Lakes Herb Faire Roundtable.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. Well, welcome, Jim, to the Great Lakes Herb Faire Roundtable. I don't think many people know who you are. So why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do in the realm of herbalism?
So my name is Jim McDonald. I am an herbalist. I live in Southeast Michigan, kind of on the northwest edge, or depending on how you think about it, just past the northwest edge of all of Detroit's sprawl, which there's a lot. I like to think I'm a little bit past it. And I've been teaching about herbs for over 25 years. In this area a lot, but also around the country, and at least a couple other countries that I could kind of say that I'm international. Like it's a bit of it's true, but
International
it's
herbalist.
And I've been involved with the Herb Fair since Anna Fernandez called me up and said, hey, I was thinking about this. Would you want to be involved? And I was like, it's a dream come true, because for me, it's something I've always wanted to do, but I'm just not organized to pull it off. There was a United Plant Savers conference that I hosted, and that was really cool. But Betsy Bancroft did a bunch of that work. And when I thought about like the aspect of figuring out tables and chairs and renting tents and food and everything, I'm like, oh, that's yeah. So when Anna, asked if I would help, I was all on board, and we've got like a super awesome group of people. So it's been like that since the beginning.
So Jim, when you're talking, there is a little bit of a reverberation or some sort of like little rattling or something like that. I don't know if you have any idea what that might be. I think it's manageable, but
I do not know what it could be.
okay.
I was just on with someone else and they did not hear it.
Okay. Well, I think Amanda has techniques where she could lower that kind of background stuff anyways. So
it could be that I'm a little bit rattled.
Yeah, you're nervous. It's okay.
I'm talking to Mason Hutchinson.
Oh, wow. I know. Big deal, right?
Big deal.
So you say, all right, let me gather my thoughts. Okay. So you've been involved since the beginning. you don't, I don't know. So have you seen the movie Office Space before?
I've never seen the movie Office Space.
Oh man, there's a great line where one of the workers there, he goes, "So what is it you say you do here?" So it sounds like you're not a super organized person, but I know you're intimately involved with the event itself as well as teaching and whatnot. So what is your role as far as organizing the event?
So I might be a person that doesn't have a specific heading.
Sure.
And I don't want to reduce myself down to like a Game of Thrones quote, but like I drink tea and I know people.
Yeah.
And so like I know a lot of the teachers, that I've seen at other events. And I know, like you, I just know a ton of people.
Totally.
And also having been to a lot of different conferences, I have, that sort of experience to say like, oh, I was at this place and they did that and that worked great. And I was at that place and they did that. And maybe it was okay, but I don't think that we need to do that.
Absolutely.
So it's just a lot of, experience being at conference and being someone who's not just a teacher, but I'm really interested in like the act of teaching and the study of teaching. One of the things that I try a lot to do is to be like, there's a bunch of people, herbalists, that are good herbalists, right? And that's a little bit different than finding people who are like really great teachers. And then on top of that, so we want a good herbalist, we want a really great teacher. And there's also like kind of a vibe that we're looking for is we want people to be friendly. We want people to be approachable. We don't want, people yelling at students. We have a sort of energy that the fair has, the Great Lakes Herb Faire has, that is really friendly and welcoming. And it's the teachers interact with the students there, and it's not like the teachers all click up. And that's sort of something that we're also always looking to sort of like have when we think about who, we're asking to come, or when we are going through, class proposals.
So you're the fifth person I want to say that I've interviewed for the Great Lakes Herb Faire Roundtable thus far, and something that's come up over and over again now is the diversity of the event, which we've really appreciate the emphasis that y'all put on that. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that as well.
I think, the first year that we did it, and, we were talking about it, we were figuring out how to do it, and I looked at the people, who had reached out and said, like, I can teach a class. And I was like, okay, this is all great people, but not really super diverse. And I thought like, okay, so, how do we handle that? And, it's tricky and not tricky. Like I'm a white dude, so it's a little bit tricky. I don't want anyone to feel, that we're inviting like, oh, we need some, herbalists of color, and that's why we're asking you. And so although I'm not the only person who finds teachers, some people just send in applications, other people know things. But when I'm like reaching out and thinking like, who's cool, who's going to be a good teacher, who's going to like have, a great and friendly vibe. I'm also looking for like some kind of connection. So that first year, there was a student that I had had a few years before named Nikhil, and he had posted about this awesome herb class that he went to in Chicago that Janine Valley Logan had taught. And so I was like, oh, awesome connection. I also asked Lottie Spady to help moderate a panel.
Hoodie.
And then every year we've tried to build on that. And every year we're looking for more. We're looking to like get feedback on how things worked out last time, and see what we can do, because we don't want to just have a conference that like has a lot of herbalists of color. Like that's not the goal. So we can be like, oh, look how diverse we are. We want the people who are coming there to feel when they're at the fair like, oh, I like being here. Like this feels good to me. It's not about how we appear to everyone else. It's about sort of like working to try that. And I know from talking to many different herbalists that they've occasionally taught in places and felt like a little bit tokenized. And so I'm always trying to figure out how to best and very sincerely convey that that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to be representative. I think I'm not sure what year it was. It was maybe like the second or third or fourth year. I feel maybe fifth year. I feel like that spread is fairly comfortable. It was the Sunday of the fair, and I ran into some, people like on the trails because the fair is pretty, spread out. And so there's trails and people are outside all day long. And I met some people on the trails and I said, "Oh, how are you enjoying the fair? What have you liked? Is there anything we should do?" Not as like a formal thing, but just because I'm interested. And one of the people said, "Oh, it'd be great if there were more classes featuring trans health and trans people and trans teachers." And I would be like, "I think so too," but no one applied to teach that. And if people don't apply to teach things, it's hard for us to like make those classes happen. I mean, I can't teach those classes. Like I could, but that's not what I think that they're looking for or what I'm looking to do. And so I said, like, "Do you know anyone who would be interested in teaching that, or do you teach?" And then followed up with them that following year, and the following year they taught a class on that. So
Wow.
like that's sort of like the vibe is like, who's coming there, how do we listen to them, and then also like how do we follow up and make stuff happen, so that there's a connection based inclusion, where
Sure.
they feel good about our efforts. They can see that we're making efforts that feel good to them, and then having them included feels really good to us. Because when I think about diversity in herbalism, I always think about like ecosystems,
Yeah.
like ecosystems, at least around where I'm at, they're very diverse places. There's all kinds of botanical and fungal and microbial and animal diversity in the ecosystems. And I really feel like if we want to have an herbalism and herb conferences that reflect that, then our spaces should be as diverse as the habitats we love. But I'm really proud of how I said that. I feel pretty good about that.
That was great.
I know.
Well, you mentioned trans health, and the second interview I did for the roundtable was with Courtney Cochran, and they'll be teaching a class on trans health at the festival this year. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, we were super happy when we saw that class proposal. I was like, yes, because again, we have all kinds of ideas, but if people don't reach out and submit the classes,
Right.
it's hard to make it happen. We do contact people and invite some people where we see need or where we see lack, but it would be, or it is great when it's also happening in the other direction. And I think that as long as we keep trying really hard and really sincerely trying from a place of caring and inclusion, it'll just attract people to offer more and more classes and make it the thing we want to be, rather than us trying to force it.
Well, I love the approach and the intent behind it. I think that's absolutely the way to go. Why don't we learn more about what you're teaching at the fair? And this question just came to mind. Have you ever done a keynote for the event? And I'm just
I,
kind of curious about that, but I know it's not happening
I
this year for you, but
The only keynote that I've ever done was the first year that we had an event,
hmm,
and it was okay, but that was back. I mean, I think that there was I didn't chime in here. The
yeah.
keynote was like an hour and a half long rather than the sort of 45-minute mark.
Right, right.
And maybe like a half hour into it, I said something. I was like, "Oh, that would have been a great like last wrapping up, tying it together with a bow kind of thing to say," except that I said it like a half hour into it, and now I still have to talk for another hour. I
Right,
think I actually said that out loud while I was teaching. So yeah, I did that. I know what I know this year is that I'm doing a walk, and
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure exactly what the walk is going to be, whether it's about weeds or just a general herb walk. And I've posited two classes, one about inflammation
Hmm.
and sort of like looking at inflammation from an energetic perspective, and not just a biochemicals perspective. So we can think about like, oh, a lot of times we talk about anti-inflammatories like that's something special, but like demulcents are anti-inflammatory in a certain way, and aromatics are anti-inflammatory in a certain way, and astringents are anti-inflammatory in a certain way. And so what I want to do is kind of like get into how we think about how the way that someone is presenting affects their inflammation, so we can choose the right anti-inflammatory for them. And then another class that I proposed was like Allies for Angst. And basically it's like a nerving class, but specifically when you're stressed out and you're feeling maybe irritable and frustrated and angry, and you don't want to be like that, but you're stressed out, and maybe being around you is stressing out the people around you, and how like which specific herbs are good for that presentation of stressed out with frustration and anger and angst.
I will be at that class for sure.
I can tell that you need it. No,
I'm
not
really
just
curious to
me.
hear
I
what
think
herbs you talk about.
I think everyone can tell that, what does Mason need? Mason needs herbs to help him with his angry outbursts. But I say that it's kind of funny, but you might be like me. You might be a person who's like really chill when you're around other people. But if you're cooking and you can't find your onion, you're like,
Bingo.
yeah, that
I
I like
get
to
it.
teach what I know.
Well, it looks like we've got our next guest coming on. I don't know if you want to stick around for Rosalee, Jim, or not. You're welcome to, of course. But why don't we point the listener in your direction? Where would you like to send folks to learn more about you and your work?
Oh, my website is herbcraft.org, and that's for like all the free stuff and all of the in-person classes. And for online classes, it's herbcraft.podia, Podia.com. That's got all the online stuff. We're working on merging them together, but not
Awesome.
there quite yet.
All under the herbcraft.org umbrella in the
Yes.
future. Awesome. Well, good to know. We'll link to both the herbcraft.org and the Podia website as well on the podcast show notes.
Well, thank you.
Of course. Good to have you on the roundtable, Jim.
Yeah.
Are you going to stick around, or are you going to peace out?
Oh, I'll totally stick around.
Okay.
I want to pull like a Waldorf and Statler Muppet up in the balcony, making comments and puns, and I know that your next guest loves that.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it was very well scheduled by Anna to have Rosalee follow up with Jim. So, welcome to the Great Lakes Herb Faire Roundtable, Rosalee.
Oh, pleasure to be here. And yay, love the puppet backstage chatter. Always a pleasure, Jim.
Well, well, Rosalee, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you have to offer in the realm of herbalism?
Thanks for narrowing that down, Mason, because at first it felt kind of intimidating. What are your inner gifts, Rosalee? I don't know, Mason. Well, I'm an herbalist, not surprising. I am a teacher most of the time, author of a couple of books, and a podcast host as well. Pretty much like many of us, my life just revolves around the plants day in and day out. Wouldn't have it any other way.
And that's the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, of which I've been a guest on. You've been a guest on the Herbalist Hour. I want to say this is actually your third time on the show now, Rosalee.
Sweet.
Yeah, I know.
Here's
It's a
to many
record.
more, Mason.
That's right. Well, awesome. This will be your first time at the Great Lakes Herb Faire. What are you looking forward to the most?
Oh my gosh, I have wanted to go to this fair for so long, but just, no one ever mentioned it to me, and no one ever said, Rosalee, you should come. So I just kind of
Yeah.
looked from afar,
That is really
and just wished.
That is really very not true.
Does Jim get to interrupt? I don't know. I think this is my story time.
Okay.
So yeah, no one invited me. I don't think people really wanted me there. So I am really looking forward to it because it's interesting that it's like it's a bioregional fair, but the word about it just has spread, I feel like, across everywhere. And I hear about it from so many different places about what a meaningful gathering it is, what a wonderful gathering it is. So I feel like it's like Great Lakes just really shines as one of, like, even though it's bioregional, it shines as this national fair that people are really excited about. So I'm excited to finally go see what all the hype's about and be able to participate. And yeah, it was just great to finally have someone ask me to come.
Well, Rosalee, I know you're one of the pulling up a picture here.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Puppets. Rosalee, I know you're one of the two keynotes at this year's event. Do you have any idea what you'll be doing a keynote on this time around?
I definitely have some vague ideas about what I'm going to be presenting, and yeah, feeling super honored to be doing one of the evening presentations alongside Mark, who's a fabulous herbalist botanist. And yeah, so the working title is What If Everyone Was an Herbalist? And we're going to spend some time dreaming together what that might mean if everyone was an herbalist. What would that mean if we were all plant-centered? What are the lessons from the plants that we learn? What would that mean for our personal health, our community health, our planetary health? So
I love when keynotes, especially at herb conferences, are of more of like the inspirational vein as opposed to, you know, just kind of teaching about, say, nervines and whatnot. But yeah, so I'm really excited to check out that keynote. And just for the listener, Rosalee's an amazing public speaker. I know you take it very seriously. You prepare, you practice. I want to say you've even hired speaking coaches and whatnot before. So just be ready for a fantastic keynote. What are some of the other classes you'll be teaching at the fair?
well, I have sent in another couple of proposals, but I don't know which ones are accepted, or maybe they're not going to be accepted, looks like Jim is commenting. So I don't know. Can you edit this out if it doesn't make the
100%.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
One of my proposed classes is kind of a group workshop experience where we're going to be tasting a series of herbs together and then sharing our felt experiences, of seeing commonalities, seeing differences, and just understanding how we can use both taste of an herb, but also the sensations we feel to understand that herb better, how we might use it for ourselves, for others, etc. So I think that would be really fun.
Totally.
And so I'll be passing around extracts, both tinctures and glycerites, so that we can all have a little taste and then share together.
This is the proposal about senna, right?
Yes, we're doing senna, cascara, sagrada, and aloe leaf. We're going to compare aloe leaf to aloe gel. I think that's a distinction people should know, like embodied. No, we're not doing that, Jim. No one's going to come to my class now, Jim. I'm going to sit there all by myself because they're all afraid. And see, he's trouble, Mason. You're the one that invited him.
I know. I don't know. I did that. I should have known better. Go to Rosalee's classes.
And the other proposal, which I think only one is being pondered. So, but one of these, another class I proposed is the Ask Me Anything Herbal Business class, where people can come. Mason, you know this. When I get talking about business, marketing, you can't shut me up. I love to do it day and night. My poor husband, he gets a lot of it, just, breakfast times together, just on and on, Rosalee talking about business, marketing. So I just thought, well, we could do that together. And I would just love to share what I've learned over the past 15 years of owning an herbal business. Just want to share what I've learned and help other people wade through those glorious weeds of getting things going.
So it sounds like that'll be a presentation, but you're also going to open it up to the audience to ask lots of questions as well.
It's all going to be questions.
All Q&A. Wow, that sounds awesome. I'll definitely try to make that one. I don't think I went to a single class last year, so I'll have to change that this coming up event. But
yeah, for the keynote, there has literally not been a day I haven't thought about the keynote since Jim proposed that last fall. So I'm really kind of putting a lot of my eggs in that basket of just really wanting to. And like you said, I take it very seriously. I'll be practicing, be working on it extensively. So these other classes I thought would be fun to have just kind of more group participation and more facilitated rather than didactic teaching, which will kind of be more of the keynote.
You'll also be celebrating a birthday during that weekend as well,
Mason.
Which is super exciting. Well, that's a lot of fun. And I know part of the reason you weren't able to travel during this time of year was because of the fires in the Pacific Northwest. So it sounds like Xavier's going to be able to hold down the fort while you're gone then.
So I would ask that everyone crosses their fingers for sure.
Yeah, totally.
So we've been at a conference together in late August when I had fires encroaching towards my house, and that wasn't fun.
No.
I decided I just don't want that to ever happen again. So yeah, let's just all envision a wonderful summer without raging wildfires. So
there you go.
Blue skies. Envision the blue skies.
You should do a class on envisioning fires not happening.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would be that would go over really well.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot about demulcents, and
Well, you do have a class on that, I want to say.
I do have a class on
Lung health.
wildfire smoke.
Yeah, wildfire.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. Awesome. Well, Rosalee, what is one thing that you love about being an herbalist?
Just one, Mason.
What is two things you love? What are two things you love about being an herbalist?
Mason and Jim. Those are two things. I
Right
love
on.
about being
Yeah. All right. I'll take it.
Oh, I would say first and foremost, it's the connection to the plants. And I was really lucky. My beginning herbal studies were field studies. And so I learned the plants with the plants. And before that, didn't like know the green world. I had that proverbial like wall of green. I didn't know really anything about the plants. And so they really just came to life. And now I cannot imagine like walking out into a landscape and not seeing the stories there. Stories of the plants, the stories of the animals, the insects, the people, how they all intersect in these beautiful ecosystems. And then to be able to participate in that, I think is so important for me and so important for humans, that we don't just observe what's going on out there, but that we can actually participate in it as we should, to help better the world and just add our own original imprints of tending out there. So yeah, I love the connection to the plants themselves. And then of course, the healing qualities of them. Like earlier today, I had a massive headache and I was like, oh, am I really going to talk to Mason today with a big smile on my face? Because I have this massive headache, and I relied upon wood betony and some movement, and my headache went from like being a 7 to like a 1. So I'm here smiling, grateful
Herbs
for
work.
the plants. Yeah. And of course, that's just like today, but they've seen some pretty profound healing in my life because of the herbs.
Amazing. Great answer, Rosalee. Where can folks learn more about you and your work?
Best place is herbswithrosalee.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And again, dear listener, you're a podcast listener if you're listening to this. So Herbs with Rosalee on your podcast player of choice. And I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you at the Great Lakes Herb Faire, Rosalee.
Likewise to you both.
Yeah. Well, any final words before we wrap up and get out of here? These are the last 2 interviews for the roundtable. So anything else you want to impart to the audience? Either of you is fine.
I would say stick around for Saturday night, because we'll have music and festivities, and rumor has it that Rosalee is going to be performing a bunch of her favorite Tory songs for everyone, unabashedly.
Amazing.
Like it'll be incredible.
Right.
Yeah. You haven't done that at any other herb conference, right?
It's true. It's true.
Live Tory performances.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Mason, for Jim joining us today, because now I'm singing a soprano Tori Amos and teaching a felt experience of Senna. So this is going to be a really great conference and fair.
You're
I can't
most
wait.
welcome.
Yeah.
Awesome, y'all. Well, thanks again for joining us on the show, and looking forward to seeing everybody at the Great Lakes Herb Faire. You can learn more about that at greatlatesherbfaire.org, and that's fair with an E, everybody. So really looking forward to it, y'all.
Likewise.
Awesome.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo. Bye-bye.
Margie.
Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our HerbRally YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an HerbRally Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herballi.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our HerbRally Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herballi.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode, and take care.